Hello, family and friends of Second Presbyterian Church. I've just returned from Black Mountain and Montreat. I enjoyed time with the youth at their conference, and I also enjoyed seeing some old friends from North Carolina. It was a good time to be refreshed by friendships that are new and old. A day before my return, we received some hard news: the tragic death of Kathy Smith, a member here at Second Presbyterian. I met Kathy when I performed my first funeral. Van Smith had died suddenly, and I met with Kathy in her living room in those hard circumstances of planning and leading a memorial for her husband. I remember sitting with her and sharing the stories that were rich and wonderful. In the weeks that followed, I remember speaking to her at church, praying for her. I always enjoyed seeing her at the early service. Her death comes as a shock to me and to so many others, especially to those who knew her and loved her dearly. We will miss Kathy, and once again we are visited by grief and sorrow. I say once again because in our living we experience grief and loss again and again. In between, of course, there are times of joy and happiness, but as most of you know, life brings to all of us a mixture of joy and sorrow, happiness and pain. You see this so well represented in the Psalms. That's why I love the Psalms. They say the Psalms are the prayer book of the Bible. Read through them, and they represent all of our prayers. Prayers of joy and thanksgiving to God for creation, for when things are going good, to grief and sorrow and confusion, to lament when things are not going good, and when we just don't understand why life is the way it is, why there's so much suffering. There are psalms that express the joy of feeling God's close presence near and dear to us. And there are psalms that wonder, where is God? Where are you, God? Especially in times of suffering. The psalms represent all of our prayers. One of the things I've learned from the psalmist is the affirmation that people of faith can acknowledge all of those feelings before our God. And for that, I am grateful. Another thing I've learned from the psalmist is that God is in the midst of it all. In that famous psalm, walking with us through the valley of the shadow of death until we reach the green pastures. The psalms affirm that God is there in all of life. In times when God seems distant, I do find comfort in that. The words of an old hymn comes to mind that captures it for me. You'll know it. How firm a foundation, ye saints of the Lord, is laid for your faith in his excellent word. What more can he say than to you he hath said, to you who for refuge to Jesus have fled? Fear not, I am with thee, O be not dismayed, for I am thy God, and will still give thee aid. I'll strengthen thee, help thee, and cause thee to stand, upheld by my righteous, omnipotent hand. And then pay attention to this verse. When through the deep waters I call thee to go, the rivers of sorrow shall not overflow. For I will be with thee, thy troubles to bless, and sanctify to thee thy deepest distress. When through fiery trials thy pathway shall lie, my grace all sufficient shall be thy supply. The flame shall not hurt thee, I only design thy dross to consume and thy gold to refine. The soul that on Jesus hath leaned for repose, I will not desert to his foes. That soul, though all hell should endeavor to shake, I will never, no never, no never forsake. To all who grieve today for any reason, for a personal loss, a sense of grief for circumstances that bring sorrow and lament. It could be personal, it could be a lament for our nation, it could be a lament for the world, lament for those who undergo natural disasters. It could be lament for many reasons. But to all of us who grieve today for any reason, I hold out the faith of the psalmist. I hold out the faith of generations of people expressed in that hymn. who found in their faith the God who never forsakes, who indeed, in the words of the psalmist, is our refuge and strength, a very present time and help in times of trouble. May God's presence always be a source of strength and help and hope and peace for us all. Peace be with you all.